around the listing appointment, the whole listing process, we could talk about, before, during and after the listing. But I think one of the things I'd love to actually touch on now is really looking at what do you do before the listing appointment that sets you up for success at the listing appointment.
Yeah, sure.
Neil?
Mike, I guess if I look back on my time at Marshall White, probably one of the single best strategies that I've employed is the pre-qualification.
Great.
Before I actually meet with the seller.
Great.
And it's something that I've learned from James Connell. It's all about finding out as much information as I possibly can before I get there. Mm-hmm. I can't tell you how much it has improved my strike rate, so I know exactly the environment I'm about to step into and how I can best approach it.
Excellent. So you're really, based on that call, being able to customise and tailor the conversation, how you go in, what your approach is and so on.
Yeah.
So could we talk a bit about that?
Yeah, without a doubt. And I think that the first essence is to ascertain, are they selling or is it an update?
Great.
If it's an update, the way I work my diary is I'll book that appraisal in for the following week.
Excellent.
Because I know how reactive my role can be. Mm-hmm. For this week, I want to concentrate on getting properties sold and listed. If it's a listing appointment, then I'll definitely make the appointment for this week. But I just do some further exploring. I always thank the person for the phone call if they've called me, or if I've called them. Now, I'll always ask if it's convenient to speak.
Great.
Ask permission. Then I'll explore as to why they're thinking about moving. Mm-hmm. I won't ask it in that direct manner, but I'll ask them where they're off to. Mm-hmm. I'll ask them in regards to their current property. Tell me a little bit about that. How long have you been there? What have you enjoyed about living in the area? When a vendor opens up and tells you about their home, they're very proud. They do want to tell you everything.
Yeah.
And you get them into the right mindset to then do some exploring around possible value. Mm-hmm. So I'll always ask them based on that, did you have a rough idea on where you thought the value could be? Mm-hmm. 9 times out of 10, vendors respond. Every now and again, with a figure.
Yeah.
Every now and again, you might have a potential vendor who says, no, well, that's why we're calling you, mm-hmm. which I understand. Mm-hmm. And I keep the conversation very jovial, so I'll always have a smile in my voice. And I'll say, that's fine, Mike, but surely you've got an idea. The balance of that 1 out of 10, half of them will tell me.
Yeah. Yeah.
If they then say, no, we'd prefer not to influence your thoughts, the response from me is, Mike, you're not going to influence my thoughts. Did you think you're in that sort of 1.5 to 2, 2 to 2.5, or were you above 3?
Yeah. Properties in your area go from this to this.
Correct.
Is you're sitting at the higher end or the lower end?
Yeah. So based on the description they've provided me, I've done a quick analysis in my own mind as to what it could be worth, and I put some ranges out there.
Great.
Once I ask that third question, I will generally get an honest response.
Great. And
that response could be, we're certainly in that 2.5 to 3 mark.
Excellent.
So that allows me to prepare the appropriate information for that appointment.
Yeah. So sort of 3 strikes, and if you haven't got it by the third one, you're not going to get it.
Stop asking.
Yeah.
We'll then move to timing. So Mike, when you're thinking about the move, have you got a month in mind or a particular weekend that you're aiming for?
Great. And I love the fact you've asked the question about a move, not a sale.
Correct.
Because in their eyes, they're moving. A sale is the process of helping them move.
Exactly. We then move from the description into timing. When they'd like to see their property on the market. Is there a particular weekend they'd like to start or conclude by? Is there a certain settlement period they'd like to work to? And when they do move, where are they off to?
Great.
Once we've covered off on timing, we move to strategy. So I'll always ask my clients, Mike, have you got a preferred method of sale? Whether it be by auction or by private sale. So it's all about exploring, finding out as much information about what you want, so that when I sit down with you, I can provide some guidance, which is basically what you want.
Fantastic. So what I'm loving about this is, number one, it's really showing a point of difference and a point of value on that call. Great, I'm looking forward to seeing you at 10 o'clock tomorrow. Phone goes down, you're just none the wiser. You're walking in with nothing. You're walking in incredibly well prepared. You know whether you need to have your authority with you. You know whether what the consideration is. You know whether that you're going to need to demonstrate the auction process well and truly, or they've already decided, I want to auction.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I think that the key to it, in my opinion, the listing appointment is generally won or lost or influenced by that phone call.
Massively influenced.
And that can really separate you and your competitors. Mm-hmm. Because if you look at it from a vendor's perspective, they're calling myself and possibly 1 or 2 others. Their assessment starts with that phone call.
Great.
Now, if the next agent just makes the appointment and go and pops around to see them, then the vendor's probably thinking to himself, gee, they weren't after much detail.
Mm-hmm.
I'm all about positioning myself in the market, getting that credibility from the outset.
Mm-hmm.
And
would you drop any examples into the phone call? You say, oh, we
Without a
sold
doubt.
that one around the corner, or great. It sounds like yours is a little bit similar to one we sold recently.
Yeah.
Yep.
If they've called me, the first question I'll always ask them is, Mike, it's always great to receive these phone calls. Do you mind me asking what's prompted you to call me?
Excellent.
And then if that comes from, we notice that you sold the property around the corner, or you sold for friends of ours, that's vital information that I'll keep in the safe for now.
Mm-hmm.
And then at the end of every phone call, once we've made the time to come and see you, I'll always work out, okay, who am I meeting? Is it just you or your partner as well? Get the correct spelling of their name, the partner's details. And then I'll say, Mike, look, I'll have some information prepared, some preliminary information, which I'll have dropped to you before we meet. Tells you a little bit more about myself and the company. Michael, when we do meet on Thursday, provided we can agree on all the nuts and bolts around the marketing and the sale, are you comfortable with myself and Marshall White representing you?
So on the phone, what would you typically get?
So that will then uncover whether they've made the decision to use the company,
Great.
whether they've made the decision to use Daniel,
Yes.
or whether they're interviewing other agents.
Yeah, shopping list kind of thing.
Correct.
Yeah, excellent.
And that's the way I approach the question, rather than say, Michael, are you meeting other agents?
Yeah.
Because I think that's a leading question.
I think it's too leading. The way you're asking it is far, far better. You'll still get the information, but you'll get it but you'll only get it if it needs to be
Exactly.
Brought into. Well, should I meet other agents, kind of thing, as opposed to. Yeah.
And I think there's a general reluctance asking that question on the phone call, which I understand. Not every phone call I'll ask that question, but 80 to 90% of the time I will.
Yeah, so it's all about picking a mark.
It's picking the mark, it's pacing the conversation. How well am I gelling with this person on the other end of the phone?
And that might be, 10 minutes into the conversation, you're having that. So you've already got a level of rapport.
Exactly right.
You've had professional friendliness in there. You've been conversational, not interrogational. So,
Spot on. Yep.
Yeah. Great.
And then it'll uncover whether or not I am competing for the business based on that single question.
Mm-hmm.
If they then say the fact that they are meeting with one or two other agents, I'll say, great, tell me more about that. Have you made a time to meet with them? Do you mind me asking who you're meeting with? And if they say, well, we're meeting with ABC Real Estate, I'll say, great, Michael. Have you had dealings with them in the past? Have you been referred to them, or have you just called the main line? Because that will then tell me if there's a relationship.
Great.
And if they have been referred to them, I on the phone call will also ask, Michael, based on that referral to ABC Real Estate, do you feel obliged to use them? So yes, I'm assessing the information I need to provide the vendor, but I'm also assessing my competition immediately, because that tells me how many touch points I need between now and the appointment.
Great.
How much time I need to spend at the appointment, and what I need to prepare to take to the appointment.
Excellent. And also potentially whether you do a one listing appointment or you do a two-step.
Exactly right. Exactly right. And if I've got the benefit of a relationship with the vendor or the potential vendor, I can say, based on the strength of our relationship, do you feel comfortable with myself and Marshall White representing you?
Yeah, fantastic.
Or it might be a matter of they've just called the other agents to get do some due diligence, a balanced opinion.
Price check.
Price check.
Yeah.
So if it's that scenario, I'll just ask, look, Mike, given the strength of our relationship, would it be okay if I suggested you caught up with these other agents first? So that when I sit down with you, you've got all the information you need to make a commercial decision. And in fact, that might even prompt an additional couple of questions for me.
Fantastic. And normally they'd say, based on that rapport, and this could be 15 minutes into the conversation now, yes, they're happy to, along those lines?
Yeah. If it's a relationship-based phone call, that I perhaps have had contact with them for a period of time, say 6, 12 months or longer.
Yes.
And depending on how I've assessed that relationship, if I think I've earned the right to ask that question, I will.
So there's a lot of reading the play in this, isn't there?
Without a doubt.
Yeah.
Without a doubt. If there's a level playing field and it's a little bit from the vendor's perspective, they're finding it hard to decide the differences between the agents, then I may not necessarily ask that question as to trying to position myself last in.
Great.
It might be a matter of, when we get there, as we always do, but even more so on this occasion, we need to absolutely bedazzle them.
Oh, fantastic. Dan, that's been awesome going through that. well and truly, I think the client would experience you as being absolutely different to virtually everyone else in the marketplace. It's true standout, and as you say, the level of preparation you can now do and know what you're walking into is massive for a listing appointment.
And I think the other thing that you need to be mindful in this call, Michael, is that a lot of the information that they provide you, you can base strategies and advice around that. When you sit down with the prospective vendor, there's, I guess, a mindset from some people that, well, if you've covered all of that on the phone, I don't need to cover it then, there's nothing left to talk about.
Yeah.
In fact, they actually want to double click on what you've spoken about on the phone call.
Absolutely.
So
it's a reconfirm. You know, on the phone we spoke about such and such. Could we talk a little bit more about that?
It is, yeah,
great.
It is. And I think the other key thing is that cover off on as much or as little as you need to, rather than sit in someone's living room and potentially just data dump and tell them how good you are. The client's only going to care about what they want to know about.
Absolutely.
So when you do sit down with them, it's a matter of saying thank you for your time and really looking forward to having obviously a debrief. But Michael, what are the key things you'd like to cover off on?
Excellent.
Rather than, in my opinion, this works for me, not for everyone, but rather than have a premeditated agenda where there's 12 points.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
If only 3 are relevant to you, let's create 3.
Agreed. And if I need to go through those 3 before I can make a decision to appoint you, then why do 12 when 3 is all that was needed?
Yeah.
Love it as much as you need to win the business, and as little as you need to win the business.
Spot on.
Dan, awesome insights, and thank you for sharing those.
Absolute pleasure. Thanks, Michael.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.